Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Super SourceCast. I'm your host, NantenJex, and joining me today is Spazzy D.
Hey guys.
It's just the two of us this week, but that's fine. We'll strive to give you an incredibly interesting conversation, just the two of us. So, very beginning, I guess, what have we been playing this week? Let me know, what are you doing? You were reviewing Cuphead, weren't you?
And I've been playing more Cuphead, because Cuphead is awesome.
Okay.
And, you know what's funny? Like, yeah, it's a hard game, but I think some of that's kind of overblown. I think that, in a lot of ways, it's kind of... The game itself is easier than a lot of old run and gun experiences, even though some of the mechanics are harder, some of the boss fights are harder. Because, like, the majority of things are, like, short levels and short boss fights, you know? So it's not like you have to continues when you start from the beginning. So it's like an incredibly fair experience, I feel like. Like, some of the fights are brutal, but the patterns are there, and you basically have unlimited tries to go after and tackle a boss. So you sit there, and it might take you, like 15 minutes of trial and error, maybe a little bit longer sometimes, but you'll get through the boss. It's a really fun game. I mean, I think everyone knows that. Not too much to talk about. Also, I've been playing Golf Story on the Switch, which is incredible. I love Golf Story.
Nice. Yeah, both of those are games that I've been wanting to try and pick up, and I just haven't had the chance or the time or the money to be able to get either of them.
Yeah, I mean, and there's so many indie games on Switch now. I want to pick up, I've played some demos and stuff of like Axiom Verge, but I never picked it up on any platform. So yeah. I was, I'm like, I should go pick that up on Switch. It'd be nice to have like a nice Metroidvania experience. I still haven't gotten SteamWorld Dig 2.
That's a great game. That was a fantastic game.
Yeah, you were telling me, and I liked the first one. I want to pick that one up. So there's those two. I played Stardew Valley a little bit on Steam, but I didn't really get into it. I feel like it's another game that I would like to have on my Switch. I mean, like it's a good time to be a Switch owner, especially it's becoming this like indie machine juggernaut.
I just got Yono, the Celestial Elephant, but I haven't had the chance to sit down and play it properly yet. Because I've been playing A Hat in Time, which I backed, like 5 years ago, whenever the Kickstarter for that began. So that I'm like nearly done. I think I've got the last level, I've unlocked it, I just haven't done it yet because I'm trying to get 100% and everything. I also finally got around to playing through Bye Bye Box Boy and Famicom Detective Club 2. Both of which were very good games. Detective Club 2 is a bit dated, but I like the story. I'm interested in playing what the original was like. And Bye Bye Box Boy was a Box Boy game, which means it was fantastic. It's a sad ending. Sad ending.
I also managed to grab a Super Nintendo Classic, but I haven't done much except for mess around with it a little bit.
Yeah, no, I've got a Super Nintendo Classic. That's what I was playing Detective Club on, because I've got it with the kind of the intention of adding as many games as possible. I mean, I already have like 3 Super Nintendos, a Japanese one, a UK one, and a French one. And then I've got, like I had most of the games on the SNES Classic already. I think it was like Secret of Mana was the only one I didn't, and Star Fox 2 obviously were the only 2 I didn't have. Oh no, I didn't have Super Ghouls and Ghosts either.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. I think I actually had all of them. I don't know if I still have Kirby's Dream. What was it? Crash Course, Dream Course. I don't even know what the game is called.
Yeah, I've got that one. Yeah, it's Kirby's Dream Course.
Dream Course, yeah, that's what it is. I think at one point I may have had that, but I think it is no longer in my possession. So I mean that, and then obviously Star Fox 2 I haven't either. I mean I feel like it's a good excuse to visit some older games. I've been meaning to play through Secret of Mana again for a while. That was kind of one of my childhood favorites. So.
Yeah, I haven't picked up any of the RPGs yet. I plan on doing Super Mario RPG and Final Fantasy 3 at some point. I played a bit of Rocky and Pocky finally because I wanted to know what that game was like, and it's actually really fun. It's a really cool two-person shoot 'em up game set in ancient Japan.
I'm actually familiar with that game. It's a good one. Like the Super Nintendo has a lot of great co-op experience.
Yes, it does. Although the localization for Rocky and Pocky is funny because there's clearly like very Japanese things like a tanuki, which they of course call a raccoon, and they call yokais goblins and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know. Like we could do an entire podcast about this or a discussion, and I know we have before. But I know we've done it because so many people equate localization with censorship nowadays.
Yeah, I know, and they're not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not. It's about adapting something to a market that it'll be more receptive to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think there were some really like interesting examples of that back in the 90s. And not everything worked out, and some of them are silly as hell, but some of them are pretty good. I think Final Fantasy IV had a really fun localization, for instance. And I think Earthbound was a very difficult one to tackle because it's such a kind of a personal work. It's a Japanese work. But I think they did an excellent job on Earthbound too, and there's actually some interviews out there.
Yeah, there's like an hour-long video interview that's really good with the localizer of Earthbound.
Yeah, so I mean, if any of you guys out there are interested in maybe hearing something like that, we might even include a link to that because I'm talking about it, and I think it's the sort of thing that needs more exposure.
I'll make a note of it here. Speaking of SNES Mini, though, let's go to our first news article, which is that the SNES Mini's out, obviously, but it sold through 90% of its initial stock in the first go. And I guess this is a good topic to talk about stock on the SNES Mini in general. Like, I haven't really been out to many gaming shops since the SNES Mini came out, so I can't really say, how well stocked it was around here, but I've heard that it was a lot better stocked than the NES Mini was. I don't know, have you seen any like SNES Minis in shops?
Well, I mean, that's where I got mine, was in shop.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I have one ordered actually from the UK that was sent to the Anvil's house and was sent to me. And I haven't received that one yet. But I just, I haven't seen any just like walking through stores. Okay. But I was on my lunch break at work. I just looked up, I heard that some Targets may have received them. So I drove over to Target and they're like, oh, we just got a box in. And that might just have been luck because I haven't seen them in the wild otherwise. But I was never able to get an NES Classic, so already I know that they restocked them. They've already restocked them once. That didn't happen with the NES Classic. That thing was basically sold out constantly. Yeah, I think this one is. There's definitely more stock, but I feel like they're still selling out pretty much immediately wherever you go.
Yeah. Well, according to the title of this article, it's 90% of its initial stock. So there's a 10% somewhere out there.
Yeah, there's probably I don't know, like some market that doesn't really care about Nintendo, which has like all of them. But in my area, I haven't like actually seen any on shelves. So.
Okay. Well, this like doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like the SNES Mini was clearly primed to not release like a buttload, but enough that most. You know, even then, enough that it's going to sell out through its stock.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the NES Mini sold through its stock because they didn't make many. They've made slightly more of the SNES Mini, but the demand is still there, so of course they sold through their stock. You've also got scalpers and shit, obviously, buying loads as well and selling them out. But I've seen a few people maybe jumping the gun a bit by saying that the scalpers got screwed over because there's been loads of SNES Minis for people to get. Don't know how true that is, but it's clearly obviously a better situation.
Also, do scalpers ever really get screwed over? Because, oh no, now they have to return them for a full refund. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess there's the hassle factor of it.
Yeah.
That they lose out on. I don't know.
Looking at eBay, there seems to be a lot for 182, 158. I don't know if they're selling them. And people
No, I don't. Well, yeah, I think you have to pay to put stuff on eBay, don't you? So I guess they lose that money if no one buys it.
No, you don't. You get a certain amount of free listings, and I'm sure people that scalp and have other, that have active eBay accounts, you can have different tiers of what you do on eBay. But basically, I mean, the way eBay works is that they take a portion of your sale once it actually is made. So if you know what you're doing, just posting it, you're not going to lose any money.
Oh, okay. All right. I think that's enough of that article.
Somebody's selling one for $160 with over 200 modded games. Can you actually fit 200 modded games on there? Because that was only 500 megabytes.
There's actually less than 500 megabytes, so it's 300. 300 usable anyway. As for you, maybe you can if you I reckon you can fill up that space with 200, but I think it's going to depend on which games you put on there. Like, there are obviously some games that are a lot smaller than other games, and if you don't put any of the other additional mods on it, so you can play Genesis games and all that, because that alone takes up like 50 megabytes. So I reckon you could squeeze 200 on there, but I don't. That's a bit too many.
Yeah, I was talking to Anvil about this, and I'm like, if you mod it, I'm like, it would seem weird. But I'm like, maybe Game Boy Advance games. I feel like that's practically a Super Nintendo, anyways. But I just feel like it's weird to put Sonic the Hedgehog on there. I'm like, the entire appeal of this is kind of.
No, I agree with you. Mine only has SNES games on it. I've been thinking about putting an NES game on there for the very simple fact that I want to play one and I don't want to do it through an emulator. But I'll remove it afterwards. It's just to give it a shot.
Well, it's still an emulator, but I know what you're saying. It's the build quality of the controllers is very nice.
Yes, they are. And I actually have a third one of them because I bought a Super Nintendo Wii controller from before, from a Nintendo official store when Club Nintendo was still around.
Mm-hmm. How is the build quality of that one compared to the one for the classic?
I feel like they're the same.
Okay.
To be honest, this one it looks slightly different because I think it has the Wii logo on it. I think, but I feel like how they feel is about the same.
They probably use the same mold. You know what upsets me? Right, we'll move on to the topic in a minute. But the fact that there are these third-party controllers to make it wireless. It's like a little dongle and you have a wireless Super Nintendo controller.
Yeah.
But they don't add a home button. And I'm like, if you're going to modify it at all, and some of them have turbo buttons and this or that, and also some of them just add a home button. I would probably buy a wireless USB one if it's not USB, wireless Super Nintendo with the Wii dongle.
No, a home button is severely needed. I guess it's not needed, but it's far more convenient than having to get up and press the reset button.
Yeah, especially for wireless. The whole point of a wireless controller is to play it far away and not have to worry about stuff. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Oh well. Anyways,
moving on.
Next article is a touchy subject right now, and it's loot boxes. So obviously we had Shadow of War come out recently, and it has an atrocious loot box system, and the game constantly reminds you about it. And Assassin's Creed is going to have loot boxes, and more games are having them. And this went through the ESRB, and they got asked about this, because obviously gambling towards kids is an illegal thing. And the ESRB are there to stop that. But according to the ESRB, they don't see loot boxes as gambling. Even though it's people paying money to get a random item, essentially a game of chance, they don't view it as gambling.
Right, but you know what? I 100% agree with what they said, and I didn't think about it this way, but it's true. They're like, so how is this different from trading card games? It's not.
Yeah, no, that is 100% true.
If that's not gambling, if you're playing Magic or Pokemon trading card game, you really want a card, you're like, I'm buying all of these booster packs. I just bought I just dropped $50 on the entire thing, and
Yeah, no, that's very true.
And that can almost be worse because a lot of people for those sort of games actually try to hope to get a good card to sell it to make real money.
Yeah.
And I know like on Steam you can sell stuff and you use real world money to get Steam currency, but you're still not really selling it for real money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess I see where they're coming from for it. It's, I don't know, I guess it's because you're not putting money down to get more money back.
Yeah.
I think that's the big difference between it. Like, you are still paying for a product, you're just running the risk of what that product will actually be. Like, buying cards or...
I would say that there's a lot of things that are kind of nebulous when it comes to, like, is it gambling or is it not? Like, I think you still don't consider all these, like fantasy sports, like fantasy football, soccer, baseball, whatever, where you put real money down, but like somehow I think that's not considered real gambling.
I think it's what you get out of it. If you put money down to win more money back, I would view it as gambling. But if you're actually paying for a product, and even though you don't know what's going to be in that product fully, I guess that doesn't count as gambling.
Yeah,
and I guess that's how the ESRB sees it as well. Which I can understand why people are salty about, because obviously everyone wants to see loot boxes go away.
Right, and I'm not saying that loot boxes aren't like that they're not exploitive, that they don't appeal to people that have those sort of gambling addictions.
Yeah.
I mean, because really, loot boxes are the same thing as like all those gacha games. It's the same deal. That's still gambling.
That's
those
true
are still
as well,
basically those are still loot boxes in the same way. They don't call them loot boxes, but you're playing Fire Emblem Heroes, and there's a new banner coming up, and you're like, oh man, I've actually never spent any money on a gacha game, but like my cousin, for instance, spends it all the time. Honestly, he plays like a game. I'm like, oh, I really want to try to get a chance at this, so I'm going to drop a bunch of money to try to get this character or whatever, and that those are essentially loot boxes as well. And those are just as much gambling, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think the difference between me is I don't mind loot boxes so much, but I don't like them in games that I already spent like $40, $50 to buy.
Right.
Like, gacha games are almost always free, and that's how they can justify the whole gacha style of things. But like, Shadow of War isn't free, and so I don't feel like it should have a loot box. Same for Overwatch, and same for the billion other games that have loot boxes in them. Because then you're spending money to be able to spend more money. Like, it's like you're buying permission to play the game, and then you have to pay to get everything else in it. And I don't think that's a good practice.
I think the reason I don't have as big of an issue with it with something like Overwatch is that I know that's their entire model at this point. But you can if you play the game, you earn loot boxes, and in Overwatch in particular, nothing is. It's all cosmetic stuff. It's all status items. That's what most, but not all loot boxes are.
I don't know. I think it's just aesthetic isn't a good justification for it, because back in the day, unlocking, like, if Hyrule Warriors and all of its millions of costumes or characters were all secluded off suddenly and put in loot boxes that you had to pay real money for, I'd be.
But you don't have to pay real money for it. You just have to have a little bit of self-control. And see, that's what I like about loot boxes in games like Overwatch in particular is that I never pay any money for it, but it gives me a reason to log in and do whatever it is to earn a loot box to see if I get anything. Which is fun, because I like getting it naturally from natural progression in a game. And in the gacha games, it's the same way. You can do things to earn them, and then you have something. But yeah, there's some people that I don't like the idea, and I know there's some people that just spend so much money because they really need to have something after they've already paid for it. But how much? And it's different from, like, I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft, right?
Yeah.
And so I paid for the base game. I paid for an expansion. You pay $60 for an expansion. You pay $14 a month for the game. and then they would have cosmetic vanity items you could buy in the store. So you could buy mounts or cosmetic like books for your character and stuff in addition to that. The difference is with loot boxes, what purchasable loot boxes. Because actually, as a mechanic for a game, I guess that's what I'm saying. As a mechanic for a game, I kind of like it because it kind of randomizes what you get, and you can keep playing and try to earn. And I like that. But is because it's random, and that's where the quote unquote gambling factor comes in.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I could spend $20 real money to get this really cool looking outfit for my character, right? Or I'm like, oh man, these loot boxes are only, $1. But it's got such a low chance, people will keep throwing money in and spend a lot more. This is a different way for them to get money. I agree they're exploitive. I don't like the practice. Especially with games that you are already paying full price with. But I don't think it's gambling. And definitely, like I said, the trading card thing, it makes sense. But if you're not going to call trading card packs that.
Yeah, I see. Alright, well, shall we move on to the third article that we have on this? This is also one that a lot of people have seen and been against. And I was at first originally, I was kind of jokingly against it. But when I think, I'll give my reasons in a minute, but I don't think it's as bad as I guess some other people are making it out to be. And that's that IGN, the news publication, the company, etc., have bought out Humble Bundle. The website that is all about donating money to charity in order to get a bunch of games from whatever themed bundle that they've got every odd week, or paying monthly to get a selection of random games every month. And Humble Bundle's quite popular because usually you can spend like $1 and get like 4 games. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, but it's all about you get to try new things for cheap and give money to charity. And I guess my issue with it is we don't know how it's going to be set out yet, but IGN having bought out Humble Bundle, that's now another company that the money's going to go to. And unless they change the prices they'll either change the prices of the bundle, which means they're going to now cost more money, because IGN's going to want a slice of the pie, or less money will ultimately go to charities. I know you can decide how much, like, where all the money goes, which is fair as long as they keep that. But I'm cautious about how they're going to play that, because obviously they want to. The whole point of buying Humble Bundle out is because they want it to make money for them. And if everyone's denying them that money, then I can see they're going to have to put something in place to make sure that they get something from this.
Well, I mean, it's still, I believe, being run by the same people, even though IGN owns it, and even though they have to answer to IGN, and obviously that'll change how things are done to a degree. I think the same people are in charge. Okay. I mean, companies buy companies, man. That is.
I know. Well, that's the flip side. That's why I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making out to be. Like, I showed a few friends it, and they reacted like, well, Humble Bundle is dead, basically. And at the time, I was like, I can see that, but now, like, I'm a bit like, oh, well, to be fair, it is just one company buying stakes in another company, and I don't know, unless they force some explicit changes, they might just leave it as it is and just get the money value in it. They might have more control over which games and what the themes are. But ultimately, they know what their niche is with Humble Bundle, so I don't think they're going to force it to change in some sort of big dramatic way. To be honest, I think people just don't want to support IGN.
Yeah, I think that's the more thing, the bigger things that people just don't like IGN.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, too, the only one that really does the charity choose what you pay are the actual bundles. They also have, the Humble Monthly's set price.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like 5% of the proceeds go to charity, and that's already set up. So it's more money, some of that percentage of that money will go to IGN, or really, the profits could stay the same. It's just going to IGN.
Yeah, I feel like Humble Bundle needs to get some of it, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but if Humble Bundle is IGN, then what's the difference at the end of the day? You know what I mean?
I guess. I know, but there's more people involved now, so I'm guessing clearly no one was going to want to take a pay cut. So there money's going to have to be
I am
distributed
not.
some way.
I'm not going to pretend to understand how that break is going to go, and who's going to get less, and who's going to get more. Because then now everyone at Humble are technically IGN employees anyway. So
yeah, that's true. We'll just have to see how it plays out, I guess. I mean, it's too early to really judge, and to be honest, I don't think it's that.
No, I don't think it's
going
to change much at all. And let's also remember that Humble has their Humble store.
Yeah.
I just wonder if IGN's going to try. Yeah, and I think that's done like a little more like any sort of standard digital storefront. I wonder if IGN is going to try to incorporate Humble into any of their stuff, because that's a bigger thing that I see that like. Does IGN have like premium memberships or anything that they would try to?
I don't know. I haven't used IGN properly in ages, so
yeah, me neither.
I personally don't know.
I don't know anything because I mean IGN's business model is so different. They're basically a news, quote unquote news site. Yeah. Okay. So there is an IGN Prime subscription. Get exclusive content, games, and more for the cost. Okay, yes, I'm sure they will probably try to mix that in with whatever Humble does. I don't think we'll see any changes probably in the short term with Humble. But we'll see. And, I hope it's fine. I always liked Humble Bundle. I was subscribed to the monthly one for a while.
I've never done the monthly one. I've only ever done the themed bundles, but they do have some good bundles. Like, that's how I got Cave Story Plus. That's how for my first time. That's how I have Game Maker Studio. They're doing RPG Maker at the moment for anyone who wants to get on that. And they do a PlayStation bundle as well. And they did that Nintendo bundle as well at one point, which I'd love to see more of, especially now that the Switch is region free, because usually they're American exclusive.
Yeah, I got that's how I got, what was it? Freedom Planet? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Blood and Gun Sonic Club and Lilac? Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I mean, right now they're actually, for $10, you can get all of the Borderlands games.
I saw that, yeah.
As well as, man, this is a pretty good deal.
Well, while you're buying that, I'm going to start up the next news discussion, and this one's more of a throwback retro. It's a current article, but it's about an older game, Soul Calibur 2. And that game was the first one in the series to introduce guest characters, and each console version got its own guest character. So the Xbox got Spawn from the comic series, the GameCube one got Link from Legend of Zelda, and the PlayStation 2 one got Heihachi from Tekken. And what's interesting about that one is that Heihachi is a character who's owned by Namco, who are the same company who do Soul Calibur, whereas obviously Link and Spawn aren't. And so obviously it was much easier to get that, but we've got a bit more insight into why, for the PS2 version, Namco went with one of its own characters, and that's because originally they were aiming to have Cloud Strife from Final Fantasy VII appear as a guest character, and would fight alongside Nightmare and stuff, and for whatever reason, that fell through. They couldn't get the rights, or Square backed out, and I guess they just had to add Heihachi in to make sure that the PS2 had a guest character. So I thought that was really interesting. I like the idea that while Spawn is still really random on Xbox,
yeah.
I find it funny that Link was the deciding factor, and his essentially PlayStation equivalent is Cloud.
I mean, yeah, at the time, Final Fantasy in particular was so heavily associated with Sony. Final Fantasy VII stands out in that regard as well. I would have loved it. I did not care at all about it. I could play Heihachi in a fighting game whenever. Why should I even care? I'm going to play the one with Link, but I would have been tempted to buy the version with Cloud for sure. Although I have to say that Heihachi kind of makes sense, because at the time, Tekken was a Sony exclusive franchise.
Yeah, it was. The originals were, yeah.
Well, they were during the PS2 era too. The first one that wasn't was Tekken 6 on Xbox 360.
Okay.
So, for a very long time, it was a Sony fighter, which is why
there's a Tekken on Game Boy Advance, though.
Yeah, but was that before or after?
Well, it was clearly before Tekken 6.
Well, that's true. I'm thinking of the mainline series.
Yeah, I know. I think it was pre PSP, obviously, so Sony didn't have a handheld for them to monitor for them to monetize Tekken on.
Yeah. But yeah, regardless, so, like, which is also why I kind of like Hihachi and Sony All Stars.
Yeah, I think this is.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen Cloud in fighting games.
Well, the only fighting games he's really in are Dissidia and Smash.
Okay. So yeah. By the way, in our chat, I just dropped it.
Oh, okay. I'll just look there then instead of.
Yeah, and it was weird. It was weird because a friend of mine had this game and I only played it there. I think it was a game that wasn't really like a Final Fantasy fighting game. It was like they just like, hey, we made a fighting game. But then they added like Cloud and Tifa and like Yuffie and Sephiroth and like everybody.
And then, no, they were all on the PlayStation. Oh no! Apparently, in the arcade version, you get Cloud, Tifa, and Django. Must be Django is a wolf character. Oh, okay, he's it looks like red. I don't know. I don't know. This is really random. I've never heard of this game.
I can't believe you've never heard of this game. Yeah, I mean, like, no. it was a thing. I remember playing it back in the day. And I'm surprised that there was no follow up to this from Square. Because yeah,
who made it though? Because Namco published it, but in arcades at least. Was it a Namco made game or was it a Square made game?
I always thought that it was a Square based game. It played a lot like the first Soul Edge. I feel like no. I mean, it was like a Tekken sort of game. It was just a 3D fighter. It was a pretty cool game.
Well, it's hard to tell because the company that made it, this is their first ever game, apparently. So, like, the actual developers of it, not the publishers.
Right.
And that's just the same game on PlayStation. And then they never made a follow-up.
Yeah, Dream Factory, and it was published by Namco. Hey, guys, we're learning things. We're learning things on today's podcast because I randomly remembered this game.
That's bizarre. And the box art was just with, like, these three random guys, like, what was it, a policewoman, a martial artist, a guy with a gun for an arm, and then just Cloud. Just Cloud is there in the back. You're just like, wait, what?
Like, okay, back in the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis days, after Street Fighter 2 really got popular, there was just like this explosion of 2D fighters. And by the way, a little side too, I always kind of hate when people talk about like any platform brawlers, like Smash clones. I'm like, so is every 2D fighting game a Street Fighter clone? I'm like, screw that. It's a genre. But anyway, and yeah, back when Virtua Fighter hit on the Saturn and then Tekken got really big on the PS1, you started seeing a lot. Everybody wanted their own 3D fighter, and I was kind of part of it. But yeah, so this was a game where you could, play as Cloud.
I find it weird why Cloud and Sephiroth are using their fists and not their swords in like all these screens. There's one screen where they've both wielding their swords, but every other one, like, their starting position is them with their fists out, ready to punch someone down. It's just use the sword. You have an overwhelming advantage, Cloud. You have a sword. Use it.
It's too awesome. And Sephiroth is too arrogant. He doesn't need the sword. So there you go. That's all your problem for you. Yeah, you can definitely find tons of video on this if you just type in the. Yeah, I also guess kind of apologize for not remembering the name of this game. But, I mean, to be honest, it is Ehrgeist.
That's not exactly a well-known... It's not exactly a common word. It's German for ambition. So,
that what it is?
German guys will... Yeah, that's exactly what it is, apparently. It's so all you German listeners out there will probably be looking at us like stupid people for not knowing the word Ehrgeist.
I'm sorry, Nerdion. I failed you.
let's go back to news articles and move on from this one. So, guess the next one. This one isn't really video game related, but I guess we can talk about it anyway, because I'm sure we have a lot of Rick and Morty fans out there, and that is the whole McDonald's Mulan sauce nonsense it's that kind of nonsense that's been happening over in your country. Did you try and get any Szechuan sauce?
I did not, because I figured it would be a part of my language shit show, and it was. It was one of those. So, like the week before, the Rickmobile was supposed to be at a local comic book store near me, and I tried to show up to that, and people were camping out like hours beforehand, and there was ridiculous lines. And I'm all like, man, I hope McDonald's is smart enough to have a lot of Szechuan sauce on hand. And they were not. Like, they have like 20 packets at some stores. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, some stores didn't even have it from what I'd heard. Like,
oh yeah, no, it was very limited too. You'd have to drive to the stores. And,
yeah.
For a bunch of corn syrup and a little
teriyaki sauce or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
We didn't even. I mean, it was only done in the US. No other country even bothered to attempt something like that. And it's fandoms in a nutshell, isn't it? Like, people will do dumb things for their fandom, and people obviously like to point out this one because it's literally for a small pack of McDonald's sauce that people were rioting. I think a guy got stabbed. I saw someone jumping onto a table, and it's I think it's kind of ruined the reputation of the Rick and Morty fandom.
I liked the shows for the first season. And I'm not one of those people that
you don't have a high enough IQ for to understand.
I'm not. Because I brought this up to somebody who I guess doesn't really understand the toxicity of the fandom. But he brought it up like I'm a hipster of the show. Oh, what, you watching the first season now? And I'm like, no, I'm not saying it like that. I'm saying the fandom is horrible. I'm not saying that like it's not like like I want a little inclusive club and too many people like it. It's just that it's not a fun fandom to be a part of.
That's kind of like every fandom. I think I saw a really good picture of it was like clearly of another comic, but it had Death going through a bunch of doors, and each door had a different fandom on top, and there was like Five Nights at Freddy's, Undertale, Steven Universe, Rick and Morty, and the next one being Cuphead. So we'll see how that goes.
Have you had a chance, by the way, to explain Cuphead? I talked about it a little bit at the beginning.
No, I haven't had any chance at all to give a Cuphead a try. I want to though. It's
all right.
It looks like a fun game. I don't have the money, and I've got other stuff that I need to get and play at the moment. I've got too much of a backlog, to be honest. One day.
And you need to get your Szechuan sauce. I think somebody traded a car for that. I think an old Volkswagen.
That's ridiculous. I would go and get lots of Szechuan sauce and trade them for cars and expensive items if people are stupid enough to buy it. All right, well, let's move on to the next article on our list, and that is back to gaming. The WWE 2K18 requires a ridiculous amount of space. Essentially, you can't download the game off of the eShop unless you have an external hard drive. And this isn't the only game to do that. NBA also did the exact same thing. It's 2K being 2K, essentially. I've seen some people, try and justify it being like, oh, well, they are compressing it, but there's so much stuff in the game that, it requires this. It's got so many characters that all need, like, their own individual models and animations and stuff like this, and it's like, I don't know. I feel like people clearly don't want to spend how expensive cartridges is, and I completely understand that from a business point of view. But then I think you need to kind of make some sort of efforts in other areas to try and make the file as small as possible, which I have a feeling that they're not doing, because you don't need to do that on PS4, and I hate that on PS4. Like Doom, with everything installed on PS4, took up like 72 gigabytes. And if it does that on the Switch, they're a bit screwed.
Well, I was going to say, there's a mandatory install for Doom if you want multiplayer on Switch.
Yeah, but I think multiplayer individually I can sort of justify a bit, because multiplayer is completely optional. and it's the same on the PS4. Multiplayer is not on the disc; you have to download it anyway. So that one, okay, fair enough. But if you have to install all the texture packs and everything else on the Switch version, I think that's kind of a no-go. I mean, the thing is, the people are going to want to buy this. People are more likely to buy this physically because it's way too much memory, and then you need like an additional 16 gigabytes or whatever for system memory for WWE, and then that people aren't going to buy micro SD cards if they had no plans to, just to get WWE.
Right.
So I feel like you're losing sales by doing this.
I mean, is it only the digital version, or is it?
Well, no, like the way it works is it's like NBA, so they're paying for the 16 gigabyte ones, and then you need to download the other half of the game essentially.
Oh, okay.
Whereas if you just do it download, then it's 33 gigabytes overall, and that means you have to have a micro SD card because of the Switch. And Nintendo is slightly at fault here. They should have far more memory on the Switch than what they do have. I know they wanted to keep it cheap.
Yeah, that's been a problem for Nintendo for a while now.
Yeah, like they do it to keep it cheap, and I understand that. But games are getting bigger and bigger, and when you compare it to PS4, which its minimum is like 500 gigs, it's mad.
And to be honest,
the Switch can't.
It wasn't an issue on the Wii U because external hard drives are so cheap. But you can't use external hard drives here because it's portable. You have to use a micro SD, and those are not cheap.
Yeah,
I mean, they're not super expensive, but they are not cheap.
No, which is a huge issue, and I feel like I don't know. It's got to kind of work both ways. Nintendo needs to come up with some kind of way to help publishers make sure that their games can fit on these, either by somehow making cartridges cheaper or helping them with compression, and publishers need to do more compression as best as they can. Like, I know people are upset when the Switch version looks worse than the PlayStation 4 version, but if it allows the Switch version to even play on the console, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I would like more. I hope the prices go down too, just on the cartridge itself. With more and more Switch games get made, hopefully they can produce items. But the memory and the fact that they're using cards which cost more money are two kind of strikes against the Switch. I mean, it's like I said, it's not extremely expensive, but like if you get I'm just looking online, you get like a 256 for like $35.
Yeah.
But still, that's only $250 compared to get for that price external hard drive much larger. But anyways.
Like, yeah, I know, it's bad. But, oh well. Let's, we got one more news thing to talk about, and that is obviously the Mario Odyssey. It will be out. No, not out. By the time this podcast drops, it's going to be just over a week away. So,
right.
That's exciting, and Edge has come out with their review of the game because they're a magazine publication, so they had to get it out early. And they gave the game a full 10 out of 10. And while game reviews are obviously... What? Yeah?
They also gave Skyward Sword a 10 out of 10.
You're right, well, I was about to say, like, yeah, okay, gaming reviews are obviously opinionated and depend on the reviewer, and nowadays anything below a 7 out of 10 is considered garbage and all that kind of crap. But, like, I mean, it's a good sign that Mario Odyssey's first review is 10 out of 10, and have you read the review at all? I haven't, because I've been avoiding spoilers like the plague.
Yeah, same here. I haven't read the review at all. I just want to go and play the game. I think both of us have played the game before.
Yes, so I've played it twice before at preview events. Yeah,
same here. So we know what it is. It's a lot of fun. I know I'm going to buy it, so why don't I need to read reviews?
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to buy it as well. I guess a warning out there to people who are also avoiding spoilers and stuff. From what I understand, this review is very spoiler heavy, including stuff that's post-game content. So just avoid looking for it, basically. I mean,
but,
presumably you haven't found it yet, and you must have heard of it. But if you have, just on the off chance, don't look for it. It got 10 out of 10. That's all you need to know.
yeah, and honestly, I don't think it's on Skyward Sword, but I think Edge is only given about 10 out of 10 in their entire publication history, so I mean, it does mean something.
Yeah, it does. It does. And Skyward Sword, Skyward Sword is a very depends on your experience type of game.
I actually think that there'll be less complaints for Odyssey than for Skyward Sword.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, Odyssey won't have those same control and situational issues that Skyward Sword has.
And it won't have weapon durability.
Well, Skyward Sword didn't have weapon durability. I think you've
not Skyward Sword,
the other Zelda.
and Breath of the Wild. Because as highly rated and reviewed as Breath of the Wild was, there were some issues that kept cropping up in people's reviews of the game. And I don't see Odyssey, from my experience with it and from my following it, I don't think it's going to have any of those issues. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to actually see it score higher. I don't know. What am I talking about?
Higher than a 10 out of 10. Oh, it's going to have to really try for that.
It's going to be 11 out of 10. Well, no, I'm just saying in general, I think it might be even better received than Breath of the Wild was.
Yeah, I think I can see that. So that does it for all of our news. But we have a few Source Gaming articles we were going to just to go over. Some good ones that you might have missed or we just wanted to put a bit of focus on. So we have 4 here to do, and the first one is a guest article by Source Gaming fan Zebi, who wrote an article called Return to Speculation in regards to Smash speculation. And Spazzy, you were reading this before we started, so...
Yeah, Zebi's moderator over on Smashboard, and it's kind of like a quick guide to how to hype responsibly, I guess. How to, when we're getting, a lot of us, just went through, not that long ago, the huge, Smash Wii U speculation period, Smash 4 speculation period. A lot of us are veterans from the Brawl era, some of us even from the Melee era. So let's just go around and like things to keep in mind. The Smash boards, which if you guys don't visit Smash boards, I know forums kind of have fallen out of style recently. Still a great resource for Smash, still a great place to communicate with other fans of Smash. A lot of the Source Gaming staff started out actually as part of Loot Group there. We still have good ties with the community and all of that. But yeah, it's just now that they've reopened forums officially for Smash Source speculation. We're just starting to at the beginning of that Smash hype cycle. Just a couple things to keep in mind while that's happening. And it's a good little article to be like, hey, make sure make sure to understand, beware of fan rules is like one of the things to think of here. There's things like that. Because Smash is kind of like an echo chamber, and you hear a lot of the same stuff. But Smash speculation is almost as fun as the game itself.
Yeah. See, I've never been a Smash Bros person. Maybe if Smash Research gets announced, I'll join in because I have enjoyed talking about it in our Discord and stuff. Obviously,
I was about to say but even without that, because it's not the Smash board. It's our Discord. It's talking with friends. It's Reddit. It's Twitter. It's whatever. It's just Smash speculation is its own thing. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So it's just a little article about that. It's a quick read, a fun read. I would suggest it. That's about it. I think we can move on to the next article that we have here, which is selection issues in Fire Emblem Warriors by Liquid. Now, I'm not a huge Fire Emblem fan. I've been going back and forth on picking this title up.
I see. So I don't know. I've got a very specific opinion on Fire Emblem Warriors roster because I think it's good, and I completely understand the reason for why it went like this. But the big thing that this article is talking about and all that is that there was obviously a lot of throwback from when they announced that the game would only have characters really from Awakening, Fates, and Shadow Dragon, because people wanted characters from Blazing Sword and stuff like that. And the developers were like, oh, well, we did it like this so that we could have more variation in the roster, because otherwise everyone would have swords. But at the same time, there's like 14 of the 33 characters in the game, not all of these being playable, but there are 14 known characters, are sword users. So it's like, oh, well, what is this looking at? Why is this clearly contradictory? And it's talking about how people have perceived this and bringing up questionable decisions that the devs have sort of made. And I kind of disagree with parts of the article. Like, my personal opinion on the matter is that just sticking to those three was the right choice to go. And while I do enjoy Lyn and Celica's additions in the roster, because I like both of them as characters, they very clearly make the roster, if we're talking purely from a balance perspective, the exact reason that, they gave for only having 3 games, Lyn and Celica don't help anything, they make the roster worse. Because it just adds 2 more sword users to what is already a very sword-heavy group.
And it's kind of weird from a narrative perspective just to have them show up. It's like when Sonic showed up at the end of Space and Brawl, we were like, oh!
Yeah,
what?
From what I understand, they don't even show up in the story mode. They literally tacked on, appear right... Those 2 and Anna and the 2 gender swaps don't appear in the story, they just appear as extras in the history mode. And they've talked about it, how Lyn... Like, Lucina was added because Nintendo pretty much requested her to be in the game, and the same thing happened to Lyn and Celica. Lyn was, like, really popular, and so was told to be added. Celica was added to promote Echoes. Lucina was added because she was really popular, and Owain kind of got added alongside Lyn as a... And there are some choices. I don't know why Owain was chosen. I don't know why Navarre was chosen. They're more sword users. They talked about having the 2 OCs be sword users because it was the easiest class for people to learn, and they were both the same class because they wanted people to just be able to pick between genders, because they're essentially the same character with just you just pick a gender. And there are logical reasons behind why the roster is like this, but people aren't willing to see it that way because they have this big hate boner for Fates, and that Fates has the most characters in the game, which it can't really help because it's 2 games essentially. So you're essentially looking at it like Awakening, Shadow Dragon, Birthright, and Conquest, but people just put Birthright and Conquest together in order to double the roster size, the amount of representation that game has. And yeah, it's... The Liquid's article isn't like, just bashing everything and all that. It talks about everything logically and the issues between what the comments that the developers have said and his own sort of like, what makes sense and what doesn't, and how fans have perceived it. But I just don't think that it's that great.
I think part of the problem is too, not just Fate, but that like almost all of the characters are from the 2 newest Fire Emblem games.
Well, I see. That's just an issue that's going to be happening because Fire Emblem's been getting bigger.
I was going to say, I get it because Shadow Dragon's the original. I would have liked a little more from Shadow Dragon, but whatever.
Same, I would have, yeah.
Right, and then Fates is the newest one, so that makes sense. So you have the newest game in the series and the original game. Mm-hmm. And then for the 3rd game, they're like, well, let's go for the biggest game in the series. So that just happened to be the one that was 2 games ago.
Yeah. Well, Awakening was the original focus of thingies, but the best comparison I have to this situation is something that happened in the One Piece fan base, which I'm sure you don't really have any experience in, I'm guessing.
Nah.
Nah. So I'll explain it quickly. There was a very big, important arc called the Paramount War arc, which is actually where I first caught up, which made the series incredibly popular. Like, it was really, really well done. Lots of fan-favorite characters reappeared, and it lasted for like a good 1.5 years in the comics, and then the manga, the anime obviously kept it going for another year and a bit. And it was around this time that obviously games and tie-ins were starting to become more common. And so there was just this sudden surge where we got, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 games all in a row that were all based around this same storyline. And by the end of it, people were sick of it because, like, how many times do I need to play a game with the same characters telling the same story just because that's the most popular story? And the same thing's happening with Fire Emblem. Awakening was this game that basically revitalized the series, and since then it's been getting spin-offs with Warriors and Heroes and Tokyo Mirage Sessions and whatever else comes up, and those are all focusing on Shadow Dragon because it's the original, Awakening because it was either the most relevant or the game that saved the series at that time, and then Fates. And if we get another Fire Emblem, like, until the Fire Emblem for Switch game comes out, Fates is going to keep getting a lot of focus. And when the Switch game does come out, and the next spin-off they make, Fates won't have as much of a focus. Maybe we'll get Corrin and Azura, and that might be it. Like, it's the fact that because it's the relevant one now, where all these games are being made alongside it, that's why it's getting all this attention. And people don't like, I guess it's really just core Fire Emblem fans don't like that because they want to play the older games. They want to play Path of Radiance, which, while being with Ike being one of the most popular characters, Path of Radiance didn't sell well, and a lot of people never played that game. Same for Radiant Dawn, that sold even worse. And Lynn's game is fine, but Roy's game was never localized. So there's, like, unless you're in Japan or a super hardcore fan, the only way you're going to know Roy is through Smash, and you're not going to know any of the other characters from his games. And I think, whereas at least Shadow Dragon did get the remake on DS brought over.
But I actually like Shadow Dragon.
I wasn't a big fan of Shadow Dragon. It's probably my least favorite.
I think I liked it because it was so simple. I'm like, I don't really have to.
But yeah, that's the main problem with Fire Emblem at the moment, and people just aren't willing to accept the reasons. I mean, I prefer the roster that Warriors has now than I would have if they had included every game, because then it really would have been worse than 14 out of 33 being sword fighters. I mean, and this 14, I think, also includes stuff like Corrin, who's technically a dragon, and Robin, who's technically a mage. They just happen to have a sword.
Well, I'll say mage characters in general don't get treated too well in the game of Legends. There aren't very many of them.
No, there aren't really. Robin's really the only one. The only sort of dedicated mage. Mages isn't... the lack of mage representation is an actual issue that I think you can complain about with this game. But... yeah,
I'm sure Tharja's going to make it in.
Yeah. I'm sure they will through DLC and stuff like that, but, like, Tharja and Merrick probably have a good shot. But, yeah, there are some genuinely things you can complain about this, but it just focusing on the 3 games and claiming that the devs lied about the reason why they did it is wrong.
All right.
Anyway, that went on for a while. So the next one is a video that released very recently by Triss, Mario Party Secrets and Analysis. We're getting all Game Explain up in here. And pretty much he just goes over everything we've seen from Mario Party, the top 100, the website and the trailer, and goes through every mini-game we know about, whether or not boards are included, and the possibility of there being, like, what characters are going to be included and which ones aren't. And it's a good video. I know, because I, like, proofread it and edited it before it came out. And he's done a very good thing. He's gone through every single individual game from 1 to 10 and talked about how many mini games are in all and how many he thinks each game might get and stuff like this. And it's I think it works really well. The only 2 things I had against it, I guess, which I pointed out to him, so he might have changed it. Like, I pointed this out when I'd first originally read it, is that there are some mic games in the on the 3DS, and sorry. So the Mario Party 5, 6, and 7. 6 and 7. I think it might just be those 2. Basically, they introduced a microphone you could use for mini games, and there are some mini games that specifically require this microphone. And some of these mini games are coming back in this collection, and the 3DS has a microphone, so they could technically use it exactly the same way. But I don't necessarily think that's a massive indication that, like, that means, they must utilize the microphone. I don't think there's enough proof to say that they can't just do what they're doing with the Wii games, because there's games that really use the Wii remote and motion controls, and obviously the 3DS won't be able to do that unless they're not going to make you shake your 3DS about. So they must be editing them to figure that out, and so I think that they could do the same for mic games, especially because mic games also could work without the mic if you didn't have it. So I don't think that part is necessarily the case. And there was also he talked about Bowser Jr. and Diddy Kong, who were in the other Mario Party 3DS game, and he doesn't believe that they're coming back. And I personally don't see why. Bowser Jr. you could make some kind of argument for. You could potentially say he's going to replace the mini Bowsers that used to be the Koopa kids that used to be in the older Mario parties, and that makes sense. But Diddy Kong, there is really no reason why he can't come back. So I think the argument is that DK isn't playable, and so why would Diddy Kong be playable as well? And I don't disagree. I disagree with that. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. You should watch the video for yourself and see what mini games and stuff there are. It's quite exciting, some of the things he found. So guys, thank you for listening in on Super SourceCast episode 4 with me and Spazzy. We had a bit of some technical issues, so I'm actually recording this end part after the fact. So Spazzy isn't here with me. But let us know what you thought about these topics, and if you have any specific topics you want us to cover in the next one, then hit us up on Twitter at AllSourceGaming, and just send us a message, send us a tweet asking for a specific question for SSC5, and we can look into it, or we can talk about it, we can do whatever, really. Or join the Discord if you want to just chat with us one-to-one. There'll be links to everything below if you're on YouTube, and if you've downloaded this, then yeah, Twitter is the place to be, or source-gaming.com. So thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.